Lord, as responsible adults, we make decisions every day. We make them in the hope that they will give us joy, peace, safety, health, and financial security. As elected officials, we pray that you will guide us in making decisions for our community that will produce joy, peace, safety, health, and financial security for all in Brigantine. We ask that you protect those men and women of our armed forces that fight every day for our freedom and right to make our own decisions. Amen.
Just to advise that meeting notices covering this meeting have been sent and posted as required under the Open Public Meetings Act. Before we begin the formal agenda, I just want to comment on Lynn Sweeney and I were able to attend an awards ceremony this afternoon where the Mental Health Association of New Jersey and Atlantic County recognized New Jersey Hope and Healing. And New Jersey Hope and Healing actually recognized a lot of partners that they've had in the recovery process. And in that, they recognized the city of Brigantine, Brig Strong, of course, our emergency management office, and Jim Mogan, along with a couple of us, Ernest & Son Butcher Shop, and the Blankets for Brigantine, and all of those groups that did so much to help the recovery effort and continue to help in the recovery effort. And my comments at that time, and certainly Reverend John Scotland as being the leader of that, and Mike Feely from Brig Strong, and Tom Millhouse. My comments when I received the award on behalf of Brigantine is it's a little embarrassing because we should be recognizing them. And they are transitioning out, the New Jersey Hope and Healing volunteers that you've seen, or counselors, I should say, that you've seen in the green outfits who went door to door. They did an incredible job working at our community center, working with Brig Strong and all of the partners here in Brigantine. It really was an example of a program that was very effective, one that started up very quickly and continued in its mission right through. And there will be people involved in another capacity, but on behalf of the city of Brigantine, we should thank them for a job well done. So New Jersey Hope and Healing, thank you for everything you did here in Brigantine, and we appreciate your efforts. And I know everyone remembers those folks out in the green, lime green sweatshirts and T-shirts going door to door to make sure that people were aware of the services that were available to them, and then the continuing support groups that they ran at our community center. So we want to thank them on behalf of the city of Brigantine. The first order of business is the approval of the council meeting minutes of 12/10, 2013 and 1/27, 2013.
127?
It should be 1/27,
1227.
12/27, I'm sorry, 12/27, 2013. Could we have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Okay, any additions or deletions to the minutes?
I'd like to make a comment about the minutes of the 27th of December. In the comment area, Mrs. Sweeney puts down the name of the person speaking at the microphone. And in a couple of instances, this is not recognizable when she listens to the tape the next day or tries to type up the notes. So I urge people who are making comment to please state their name and address very clearly for the record.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, anything else on the minutes? Okay, seeing nothing at this time, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
McClay.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Pallola.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next we have the approval of the requisition list, operating expenses and payroll. A motion second, please.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
McClay.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Pallola.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next we have a public comment session that is public comment on agenda items only. So if you'd like to speak on any of the agenda items that are on this evening's agenda, please step forward, state your name and address, use the microphone, please. Mr. Weiner? And remember, we have a 5-minute limit, and we have a new timing device, thanks to Councilman Picardi. We have sand for 5 minutes. Okay?
5 minutes go for the council too?
Yeah.
No, I turn it sideways.
No, but that,
Oh, you
For
mean
the
when
council
council
too.
speaks?
do they have 5 minutes?
Not according to our rules, but wouldn't
I
be a
don't
bad
think
idea.
I don't think that's fair. Anyway, my name's Norman Weiner, 600 East Beach Avenue. I guess this would come under maybe the temporary budget. I was reading that Brigantine and another town in New Jersey were awarded $3-point-something million for cleanup. I was wondering, does that have anything to do with our budget, or is that money found, or what is it?
It's not money found. I believe what you're talking about is the FEMA monies that we reimbursed for cleanup after Superstorm Sandy, and it will affect our 2014 budget, which at this point has not been presented to council. The due date's on Friday, and they'll be advised by the auditor at that period of time how this FEMA monies will affect our 2014 budget. Although we haven't received all the monies that we requested at this point, we have received a substantial amount.
So that'll be in 2014.
Yeah, that will affect 2014.
Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Any other public comment on agenda items? Yes, Mr. Pucci.
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
I'm going to need a little help with this one. I don't know if it's item number 7 or number 18 on the agenda. The Public Works Department is purchasing 4 new vehicles, pickups, which I totally support. My question is, and even specifically, if I may, to Councilman Riccardi, Councilman who is a nurse and or in the medical field, I understand, and Councilman Kern, who is a doctor, and the mayor, who's certainly knowledgeable of Title 18 as far as education and all school districts in New Jersey. My question is, do we have a smoking policy specifically within the Public Works Department and or this city?
Please, really, John?
Well-
That's quite a stretch to put that onto the agenda items.
Well, it's concerning the, excuse me, I won't laugh when you're up here.
John, I'm trying to,
It's about the new trucks, and as far as should we maybe start a policy of not smoking in the new trucks? That's where I'm relating it. And the other item was about the grant for the alcohol and drug abuse. So if it ties in, fine. Otherwise, I'll certainly come back at the end of the meeting, but I'm still going to have the question, does this city have a smoking policy with our city vehicles? It's a simple question.
I don't believe we have a smoking policy. I mean, some municipalities do, but I don't believe that's part of our personnel policy at the moment. Although the personnel policy has been being worked out over the last few months with the labor attorney, and that should be submitted to council within another 2 months after we get through it all.
And are there any comments from the councilmen that are in the medical field?
right. Well, I was going to comment on the the alcoholism, drug and alcohol grant is actually going to be pulled tonight. That is, it has to be reworked, so we're going to pull that for this evening. But to answer that question, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but it will be something, that could be discussed as part of the personnel policy. My own feeling is there should not be any smoking in city vehicles. There should not be any smoking on city property. And it's an easy enough policy to stick to.
I agree with you, Mayor, and I did bring this up at City Council meeting a year and a half ago. And I should hope the next discussion and the consensus of council doesn't take another year and a half. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other?
Item, I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought you were finished.
Item number 19, the temporary budget increase. The council just passed at the very last meeting a temporary budget. So in this resolution, it says that it's an actual emergency. So I would just ask what transpired between tonight and the last meeting as far as approving a temporary budget last meeting, and now we have an emergency to approve an additional item, is my question.
This is for us to accept grant money, which doesn't always follow the budget process. We are awarded grant money for radio and communication equipment. That's a $320,000 number. We also just received another $6,000 to start a GIS system, which will be very beneficial to the city, both within our emergency services and with the city engineer's office. It will be something on our website. So what this allows us to do is add these line items to our budget to accept the grant money and then be able to expend the grant money.
Thank you. And just 2 items on the bill list, please. There's a William Reynolds Esquire for $2,150. What is that?
He's the prosecutor.
Prosecutor? And also the Phoenix Advisors LLC for $6,750.
There are financial advisors.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, any other public comment on agenda items? Okay, so now I'm going to close that portion. We have a resolution 2014-23, which is asking, calling upon New Jersey legislature to promote equality and true transparency in government by amending the provisions of the Open Public Records Act and New Jersey statutes so to remove the exemptions that apply to members of the New Jersey legislature. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. My suggestion would be that we table this. I'll tell you why. I read the resolution, and I'm pretty much in accord with what it says. I've been one of the most vocal people in complaining about the excesses of the Oprah Act and as they affect our operations locally. And on a gut level, it doesn't strike me that there ought to be any exemption for the legislature. But with that said, it has been in effect for 13 years. So it's not as if we're under any great time urgency to act tonight versus at the next meeting. And I did want to hear from someone on behalf of the legislature as to whether there are reasons why they've exempted themselves. And I frankly doubt that there are reasons, or at least reasons that would persuade me, but there may be. And to that end, I reached out Monday, to Senator Whalen and to Assemblyman Brown via email, and I asked them if they had any information that would be of use to us in determining whether or not there is some claimed actual reason why the legislature ought to be exempt. Based on my past dealings with both men, I expect I will hear from them shortly, and I'll share whatever I get with council. And if it's what I expect it will be, then at the next meeting I will be on board with approving the same resolution. But given that it has been in effect for 13 years and there's no great urgency, and it's only a resolution which calls on the legislature to take action, which is obviously within their control, I would respectfully ask that we consider tabling it for tonight.
I also would like to say something about the Oprah Act. There are 24 exemptions to the Oprah Act. I too did some research. And the 2 exemptions that are for the state legislature protects the public, actually. It protects a privacy right. So I also reached out to the sponsor of a bill that's currently in the state Senate, Senator Beach, and I emailed his chief of staff to get some more information about this, because I'd like some clarification on why these exemptions are in place. I haven't heard back from the senator, and I too would like to table this until I know a little bit more about it.
I think one of the problems is, though, that the legislature has really given themselves almost a blanket exemption, and, which is politically nice cover when you need it, and hasn't really published what the true exemptions are so that people can focus on them and see whether if they're valid or not. Because if I remember at the time when this was before the legislature, the only way that they could get support to pass it on a wholesale level was to give themselves an exemption, which, I don't know, to me it's a little dodgy to do that. So I think, you know, it's more than warranted to move forward and put them on the same level as the municipality is.
This apparently is supported by the League of Municipalities as well as the Atlantic. This resolution came from the Freeholder Board, so they've passed that as well. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Well, Mayor, I think it's a reasonable request, given the fact that the two council members have reached out to members of the legislature and the Senate to get some clarifications, and the fact that this will only be held up for 2 weeks. There is no urgency. Again, this is only a recommendation to the legislature. I would think that we should table it.
I didn't see any time thing on that where they were asking us to do it with any type of speed. Do you, Phil?
I don't know what,
I didn't
if
pick
that
up-
bill has been posted yet, or it's ready, you know, if there's any action pending. That I don't know at this point.
So in other words, it wouldn't be a real problem just to wait for 2 weeks?
No, I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem to wait for 2 weeks. Okay, I sense that there's support to table this right now, and we could have asked Mr. Cerny, who was a member of the legislature long ago, for his input, prior to Oprah, probably. Okay, we'll get a sense, we'll just table that at this point and move it back on the next agenda. We have several resolutions that deal with applications to the New Jersey Infrastructure Fund for projects within Brigantine. And of course, these are projects for, that will be mitigation projects for the most part, that will enable us to strengthen our infrastructure. If, before we begin going through each of these individually, I thought I might ask our engineer to give us an explanation of all the projects, and then we can vote on them. Fred, you'll probably want us to vote on these individually, or can we? Yeah, okay, we'll do them individually, but I'll ask our engineer to give us an explanation to go through all of the improvements, and then we can move the resolutions along.
Well, Mayor, if I could, I think it would make more sense and would give the people in the audience a little better context for what we're doing if the manager first gave us an overview of the big picture. Where did these projects come from? What is our funding source? What's the timetable for that? And then we can ask Ed to get into the particulars of each of the 9 or so items we're going to vote on.
Well, I know Ed has worked together on this. Do you want to?
I'll just start it generally, as the councilman had
Right.
requested. These are projects we spoke about at a prior meeting to go out for NJEIT funds, which is partial loan, is partial grant money. These are projects that we've been looking for funding since Sandy, some before Sandy, and we discussed the expense of engineering costs at the last meeting. But these projects are things we're going to need moving forward, whether we get NJEIT funding for them or we continue to look for different sources of funding. We're going to need the specs moving forward. So we decided to move forward, get the RFPs out for the engineers, get some of that information back, which you will see in the various resolutions. There's certification of funding from the CFO. This money's coming from prior bond ordinance that we did where there was engineering costs that were still allocated that we could use to move forward with these projects. These projects we will have to get done in the future, so we recommended at that time, and Ed and I, the engineers, still recommend now to move forward, getting the engineering specs to move forward to try to get these projects funded, either through NJEIT or the other funding sources that may become available.
These projects are all part of our long-term plan, recovery plan from Sandy as well.
Long-term recovery plan, and they're essential really to reduce the risk of flooding in our city, and also address some areas like Evans Boulevard that had continuous flooding even before Sandy.
Jennifer, I take it we're in competition with communities throughout the state seeking money from these same funds?
Yes, we're always in competition.
So, and we have a submittal deadline for this phase of it of March 3rd, did you say?
Yes, the first week in March, the NJEIT submission is due. So if we don't act tonight, we wouldn't qualify to even be considered for that award.
These are the first come, first served basis, correct?
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think they do compare them to the needs of the various cities.
Jennifer, to the extent that we find that any of these projects don't get funded, the money that we're proposing to spend now to develop the engineering is not going to be wasted money, is it?
No, we will actually use these specs to go out and try to get additional funding. And sometimes when grants do come around, like the councilman had said, they're competitive. That will give us really a foot up compared to other communities that may not be considered sometimes shovel-ready, or in other cases might not be able to get the specs ready in time.
And this is, a matter of you have to do the engineering work ahead of time to qualify for the funds. It is very
Yes.
similar to the stimulus money. These would be shovel-ready projects.
This actually makes things, quote, shovel-ready, unquote, right?
Well,
Once we get the data in.
it always depends on what the funding organization defines things as, but yes, this would get us a lot closer than other municipalities who just came up with an idea without going ahead and getting the engineering services done.
And just so the public knows, I mean, because there's a lot of projects here. I believe there's 9 projects. And the engineering costs are substantial. But the reason we're doing this is through the NJEIT, and I believe the state has approximately $1 billion to dole out. Shovel-ready projects with design aspects is part of the criteria by March the 3rd. And the reason this is being done is because we will, if we're approved, we'll have a 15% grant of the total project. I believe 57%, Ed, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 15% is a total grant, 57% would be at
Low market rates.
at no interest, and then 25% at market rate. So it benefits the city to be aggressive and go after these projects. It's in fact every project that's approved, regardless of when we do the project. And there's no time frame on when we have to do the project. It'll be a substantial savings to the city.
Basically correct, yeah. I think it's 18% is the grant amount.
I apologize.
And that's okay.
I didn't have my glasses
That's
on. It is
okay.
18%.
It's 18% grant, 50-some%, zero interest, and then the balance is market rate interest. There is a time frame, so the project, the NJEIT program that we are pursuing, and this started back in October. We did the letters of intent. This is Sandy related. That's the 18% grant is coming from that $1 billion that is Sandy money. So the qualifications are projects that are Sandy impact projects. So either recovery from damages suffered during Sandy, or projects that will make our infrastructure in our city more resilient to protect against future storms, things like that. But we have to have a Sandy connection. Our opinion is all the projects that we are pursuing have that Sandy connection, so that we will meet that eligibility. The big hurdle, though, is we need to have plans, specifications, planning documents, and environmental permits completed by March 3rd and submitted to the state, to the trust. So that is the challenge. That's why we're here tonight. That will allow the consultants 22 days to do the surveying work, do the drafting work, do the design work, the planning, the environmental permitting, submission to the DEP for those environmental permits, and then the submission to the NJEIT. So it's a lot of work that has to get done in a short amount of time, but I've spoken to all the consultants, and they are all ready to, to meet those challenges.
Ed, why don't you go through the individual projects now and, talk about how the cost, of course, is important, but how each one ties into making us stronger and safer going forward and preventing additional flooding.
Okay. One thing just to point out, there's one resolution before the NJEIT applications. That's an award of contract to Whitman for the golf course remediation. So that is not part of the NJEIT. We'll get to that, as we get to there
Right.
on the agenda. The 9 projects. So there were 9 projects, and the way this came about, we identified 9 projects as part of our hazard mitigation grant application. So this goes back to last year. It was after Sandy, and typically after a declared event, a certain percentage of the amount of the damage gets funded into a hazard mitigation grant program. So we, along with most municipalities that suffered damage, we applied for hazard mitigation grants for these 9 projects. What occurred, though, is that New Jersey took all of the money that they received from the declared event from Sandy, from the federal government for Sandy funding, and they directed it into housing, basically house raising, so none of our hazard mitigation grant applications were approved, nor will they be approved. So the next best option is to pursue the Environmental Infrastructure Trust Program, which is what we are doing. So the 9 projects that we identified, the first one is the removal of sediment from the golf course drainage basins. So there are lakes that are on the golf course. Those lakes function as an integral part of our storm sewer system. So the streets in the golf course collect storm water and run that storm water into the golf course lakes. These lakes are, for the most part, interconnected, and there are 5 outfalls from the lakes that go to the bay. So that's how our golf course drains, collects inlets in the street, then the pipes to the golf course lakes, and then out of the golf course lakes into the bay. During Sandy, we documented that we had some sediment and debris that accumulated on the golf course and ended up in these lakes. And we know that over the course of time, the lakes have accumulated sediment as well. What occurs is as the bottom of those lakes build up with this silty material, it interferes with the drainage of our municipal streets. So the bottom of our lakes ends up being higher than the inverts of our pipes, and the water has to go uphill to drain. So the first project, as I said, is to remove the sediment, to get us down below low tide so that there will always be water in the lake. That keeps the mud covered, that keeps the odor down, and then it provides a reservoir for our storm sewer system. One of the things Public Works does very well during storms, forecasted storms, when we know we're going to have high tides, we shut off the floodgates at these 5 outfall pipes that flow from the golf course lakes. We do that at low tide prior to the storm so that we have a reservoir. If we get a heavy rain, we have the ability at that point to store some of that rain in the lakes before it floods our street. Right now, we don't have that ability because that volume is occupied by the silt. So that's the first project. Second project is a replacement well for well number 4. That well is located at 42nd Street and Bayshore Avenue. That's the oldest well that we have on the island. That well was drilled in 1966. It does not meet federal flood elevation for that floor, and it does not meet safe drinking water standards to have the wellhead 18 inches above the floor. That doesn't mean it's not safe right now, but during Sandy, we came to within inches of that flood level reaching the floor of that building, which then had the potential to impact that well, negatively impact that well. So this certainly has the resiliency aspect of the qualification. It is to protect our natural water source, and certainly a critical component of our infrastructure. The third project is proposed stormwater pump stations at Hackney Place, at Jenkins Parkway, and at 34th Street South. So we've spoken about these pump stations for an awful long time. Hackney is one of the ones that we've spoken about for the longest. That is an area that has many repetitive loss properties. It's one of the lowest areas, one of the 3 lowest areas on the island. This pump station would take the place of the flood buster that is currently, temporarily stationed there, but permanently stationed there.
Interim.
I'm sorry, interim. So we would replace that with, and actually there it will be a new flood buster type. We cannot do a in-the-ground permanent pump station because we don't have the 3-phase electric there, and the electric company was looking at $110,000 to $125,000 to give us 3-phase. But we're in good shape with a new flood buster with all the bells and whistles. So that's the first location. The second location is Jenkins Parkway. That is part of our long-term plan. That new pump station, that proposed pump station, coupled with the pump station at 12th Street North, basically it will assist 12th Street North in draining the largest drainage area that we have on the island. So that takes, right now 12th Street North drains from Roosevelt Boulevard to 12th Street North, from the ocean to Sheridan Boulevard. So it's an extremely large area. By putting in a pump station at Jenkins Parkway, it will take the upper half of that watershed and allow it to drain through Jenkins Parkway. That it will relieve some of the stress on 12th Street North. And the third pump station is 34th Street. That's at the Circle. Obviously, that's a critical component of our evacuation route. That would go on the street end next to the old gas station, and that would help not only the Circle, but also Bayshore Avenue in front of Public Works. Also an area where we have several repetitive loss properties. The next project is the boat ramp flood control improvements. And this project consists of putting a gate across the boat ramp. So that is long overdue, and it'll be a removable gate that can be placed by Public Works in advance of a predicted storm. It also includes a permanent stormwater pump station to take the place of the second flood buster pump that is temporarily stationed there. It includes drainage improvements, replacement of existing pipe, and an attempt at elevating that intersection, the intersection of 5th and Bayshore, as much as we can. We don't know what that extent will be until we have the field work, but without impacting the homes in the neighborhood, but at least getting that intersection higher, even if it's 8 inches or a foot, it still is the first place to go underwater in that area, and we could buy us some time with elevating that intersection. The next project, the fifth project identified, is drainage improvements along Ocean Drive South. So this is in our south end of the island. It's an existing drainage system that runs behind several homes. So it runs within the rear 10 feet of these homes along Ocean Drive West from Pepper Cove to Lagoon Boulevard. This project entails the replacement of that pipe with a new pipe in Ocean Drive West, in the street or within the right-of-way, and a new outfall pipe at Lagoon Boulevard. So the current system has an existing outfall pipe that is completely filled with sand and no longer functioning, and is only functioning with a secondary outfall pipe that is undersized and too high for the system. So that is project number 5. Project number 6 is emergency generators at municipal facilities. So there are 11 facilities where we're proposing to install emergency generators. One of them is the fire department and police station. One is City Hall. The rest are our wells and our sewer lift stations. And this certainly has a sandy impact, as most of our wells and certainly most of our sewer lift stations, we lost our auxiliary power, our backup power in Sandy, and we must replace that. So this would fill that need. Project number 7, flood control improvements at 12th Street North and East Evans Boulevard. As I said earlier, 12th Street North has a pump station. That's our largest storm sewer pump station, and it drains the largest watershed that we have here on the island. This project anticipates the replacement of those pumps. So those pumps are about 20 years old. They are damaged. They were damaged through Sandy. We're going to replace essentially the guts of that pump station. We're replacing the controls of that pump station. They too were damaged in Sandy, during Sandy. And we're going to replace the storm sewer pipe in East Evans Boulevard from 12th Street to 6th Street North. We had received funding under the Community Development Block Grant several years ago to replace the storm sewer system in East Evans Boulevard from Roosevelt to 6th Street North. So this carries that down the rest of the way to the pump station. That was project number 7. Project number 8 is bulkhead installations at municipal street ends. This has 9 street ends. 3 of them are replacements of existing bulkheads, and 6 of them are installations of new systems. We anticipate that on the new street ends that may be a gabion type system. We'll have to work our way through the environmental permit process to make that final determination, but that would fund bulkheads at 9 locations, and obviously that has the Sandy impact. The 9th project that was identified for the hazard mitigation grant, also identified in our letter of intent for the NJEIT, is for the bulkhead installation along Ocean Drive West and along between 9th Street North and 5th Street North on the ocean. That project we do not have the funding to, or the CFO was not able to certify the availability of funding. And at this point, I believe that that project would not move forward. I will share with you, though, that the Army Corps, we have requested, actually the Army Corps put out a call for projects. The criteria was a non-federal project, so we were not able to ask for the groins along the north end of the island that we so desperately need. But we were able to identify the bulkhead along Ocean Drive, so that was not a federal project. So the Army Corps did notify us that they are looking at that, and they're going to evaluate that for funding in an Army Corps project. So, are there any questions on the project?
I just have 2 questions. As the order that you presented them, is that prioritized?
So it is my recommendation that we look at projects 1 through 7 as priority number 1. So I could give you an argument for each of those why I think they are the top priority. So I'm unable to put one above the other. So 1 through 7 I think are number 1. And then project number 8 is number 2, and project number 9 is 3.
But does the funding process ask for prioritization? The application?
Yeah, not as far as I know. In fact, these are they go into different categories, right? So generators will be evaluated differently. The well will be evaluated differently. Storm sewer will be evaluated differently. And just by that nature, wells and the generators will be evaluated as a top priority automatically. Storm sewer would come under that. But they don't ask us to prioritize.
My second question is regarding the sedimentation in the lakes. Prior to Sandy, was there a system set up to regularly take care of the sediment that was flowing into those?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I mean, is that something that should be, set up on our behalf? Is that something that can be
It- it-
financially tackled reasonably, or maybe with even our own personnel?
I believe that if we, to answer your question, yes, we should have a program. The program, though, should focus on the ditches that lead to those lakes. And so we do right now, Public Works maintains the inlets and the pipes. So we clean our inlets and pipes, so we try to collect the sediment
Before it gets...
to that point. That's as far as historically we have gone. The ditches are the next thing that we need to focus on, and that's one of the things we did with the FEMA funds right after Sandy. And that's something where I think we need to focus. In terms of the lakes themselves, if we do continue with the inlets and the pipes, and then we create and continue with an aggressive program on the ditches, I don't think we'll have the issues in the lakes. And I think that's where we would focus our efforts.
Thank you.
Ed, I have a couple of questions. The bulkhead installation, 9th North, 13th North, is that on the beach side?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
not 13th Street North, but 9th to
North is
5th
the beach side?
is the beach side, correct.
Okay. And you said there weren't enough funds at the time for the other location,
That-
up to 5th North?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I thought that was the beach, because I couldn't figure out where
That-
9th
that's the
Street
beach.
North and the bay
That's
was. My other question is the pumping station, the pump at 12th North, is that currently not working?
No, it is, Public Works put it back together
Oh,
again,
okay.
and it is.
I used to hear it clicking all the
it
time. I
is
don't hear that
limping.
clicking anymore.
It is limping along.
It's still clicking? Okay. And my other question, the boat ramp control improvements, does that include floodgate?
So it includes a floodgate across that ramp. The goal is, and we'll find this out after we get the topo and we start looking at a design, if we can get that intersection at 5th and Bayshore up a little bit, we can get that up a foot. I can get the parking lot up a foot. I can get that ramp up a foot. So then the gate itself only needs to be 18 inches, which is very easy, very manageable, and in fact, probably not needed obviously most of the time, right? So if we can elevate, we're going to try to elevate as much as we can, but whatever we can't do with elevation, we're going to do with a gate.
How does that not affect the surrounding properties? Make them more flood
Well,
prone?
remember, it doesn't make them more flood prone. The way we stop the impact is we have that traffic triangle right at that intersection. So
Right.
that's in essence where we're looking at gaining our elevation. So when you move towards towards West Shore Drive, towards the Elks, we wouldn't be elevating down there because there's residential properties across the street.
Right.
We wouldn't want to impact that. But as we get closer, that intersection with 5th Street, that is an area that goes under. That's the lowest area right there along Bayshore Avenue. So that's still, again, if we can pick up, so right now what happens is Bayshore Avenue at that point goes like this, it's sawtooth, right? So if we can get rid of this and do that, and it doesn't have any impact on residential properties there because it's an intersection with that traffic triangle, all we do is put the water back in these inlets, comes the same way right to the pump station, it won't have an impact.
That area in 34th Street have a huge impact on people leaving the golf course. Because they're traveling along Bayshore Avenue, and
That's right.
as it floods now, they need to either try and give it up to Brigantine Avenue or go back. Sometimes the flooding is even
That's correct.
at West Shore and Bayshore as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a project that really needs to get done. I have to say too that the golf course, the cleaning of the ditches, which was made much more doable after Sandy when they opened up the permitting process to allow you to do it. It made a huge impact on how that course drained. So if we can do something from the permitting to have a perpetual type of a permit to do that, I think that would be a huge step forward. And, you know, the DEP is much more user-friendly than they have been in the past. So if that's something that we can work on together. Right now, yeah. I don't know how that's going to hold up going forward, but yeah, that's something I think we need to look at.
And you know, I could check the grants that are offered through Sustainable Jersey, and there's always grants out there that have to do with sustainability and the environment. So somehow maybe I'll look at that grant, and you could see if there's any tie in there.
Hey, do we have any money when the CVS got built? Did they donate money to us or anything like that?
They did, and in fact, that's being used to fund the engineering for the pump stations at 34th Street. So they, I believe, donated $50,000 for drainage improvements at the circle in that area. And that's one of the funding sources that the CFO pulled to fund the engineering for 34th Street Pump Station.
I want to make a correction. When I said I could look at this as Sustainable Jersey grant, I meant the green team, not me personally.
Understood.
Now, how come we don't have anything regarding the circle on here, the flooding of the circle?
We do. The pump station,
Oh,
project
okay.
number 3.
Oh, that's right.
the-
Okay, all right.
And those storm sewer pump stations, that's
Let's do the engineering.
the
for the
pump
project.
itself and the
The
drainage
outflows.
pipe. Yes.
Okay.
And then in long-term, the reconfiguration of the lighthouse circle, the much anticipated project, the county project would elevate, I believe, that curb. It would help with some of that flooding in that area as well.
That is correct. So when that happens, I don't know, but the work that we have laid out, at least conceptually for the pump station at 34th Street, it includes drainage pipe around that circle, but in a way that it would not interfere with however that redesign occurs.
Total cost, I don't have my calculator for all the engineering.
It is, I think, 800, no, excuse me, 500 and in the neighborhood of 550,000. So the reason I don't know, it has changed. So hopefully you all received my letter recommending award. I recommended awards to different contractors for the 9 projects. What occurred when we could not get to the 9th project, and we were only going to do 8, then I switched one of the recommendations of the consulting engineer to the lower price. I tried to split it up because with only 22 days, I couldn't recommend 4 contracts go into one firm. And I did have the conversation with that firm, and they said they couldn't do the 4 projects. So once the last project was eliminated, it allowed me to then make the switch. So I had the total cost before that switch, but I will tell you that it's in the neighborhood of $520,000.
And any chance that some of the professionals won't be able to make this timeline?
I've spoken with all of them, and they've all told me they will make the timeframe. I think there's always a chance if we were to get this blizzard coming this weekend and the ground was to be covered with a foot of snow for a week,
Johnny will get it out of there.
it would make it a challenge, but I don't think we're going to get that. So.
Ed, I have a question, and it may be for our city solicitor. The firms that were awarded the contracts, is there a deadline that in order for them to receive payment, the design work and whatever engineering work they have been hired to do will be done by the time necessary for submittal?
So the first phase, if you saw in my letter recommending, I provided a bid tab, and there's for each project there's an A, B, C, and a D. A is the 90% plans, specifications, planning documents, and environmental permits to the DEP by the deadline. So, you know, that is a question for Fred, but, I mean, it says, you know, you have to make that deadline.
Right. I guess the question, Fred, is if they don't meet that deadline, are they going to be paid for their work when in fact we're going to miss out on the ability to have that project move forward in the NJEIT?
The argument becomes that the requirement is that the product be presented as of a certain date, and failure to present the product as of that date effectively could be non-performance. Now, that raises a host of questions which are better discussed at another time and not in a speculative nature, but that would be the approach that the municipality would take.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Ed, I know I think you're leaving early. You had to go someplace. What, before you leave, I don't want to confuse it with this. I do want to talk to you about Bayshore Avenue and the potholes and those problems after the storm, after we get done with this business, if you don't mind me.
Depends on
Step
what-
off the agenda a little bit.
Well, excuse me, Andy, you must be aware that that's a matter that is already touching on litigation. We shouldn't be discussing that at this time at all.
Well, let's wait, Mr. Lucre, and figure out what he's going to discuss, and we'll let the solicitor comment on that. If we could we go back to the resolutions that we're dealing with? And are there any other questions on this, what's been talked about by city engineer? And if not, we can move forward one resolution at a time, vote on them individually.
I don't have a question, but I do have one final comment. I want to thank everybody involved in this, our manager, Ed, and our part-time CFO, Peg Gorman, because with an externally dictated, very tight timetable, they were each able to turn around both the receipt of the proposals, the preparation of recommendations for award, and in the case of Peg Gorman, able to locate funding, which was problematic until earlier today, if we would have enough money from enough different sources. But obviously, she was able to scour the accounts and find the money under cushions or wherever, which lets us go forward. So I just want to thank everybody involved for that.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, with that said, we'll move to the first resolution. And we're going to begin, I guess, at 2014-26. And then we'll come back to the award of contract for the golf course remediation. And this is the sediment removal from the golf course. As soon as I get to that one. Okay, and this is for the sediment removal from the golf course drainage basins. It went through process, municipal engineer, and they solicited proposals. Was reviewed by the municipal engineer and recommended by the city manager's office. And this would go to Mazer Consulting based on their bid of $72,700. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
McLeod.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Pallola.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, resolution 2014-27. This is for the replacement of, for well number 4 at 42nd Street and Bayshore Avenue. Once again, bids were solicited by the engineer's office, and this award has been recommended by the city manager's office. This goes to Remington, Vernick, and Wahlberg Engineers based on their contract bid of $105,000. Could I have a motion, second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
McLeod.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Pallola.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next we have the word of council for proposed stormwater and pump stations at Hackney Place, Jenkins Parkway, and 34th Street South. And this goes to Roberts Engineering Group based on their bid of $70,000. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Palella,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next resolution is Resolution 2014-29, and this is for improvements to the boat ramp flood control improvement. And this would go to Endicott Engineering, based on their bid of $25,050. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Palella,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next is Resolution 2014-30, and this is for drainage improvements along Ocean Drive. And this would go to Mazer Consulting based on their contract bid of $69,900. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Palella,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution to award contract 2014-31. This is for the installation of emergency generators at public facilities, and this goes to Roberts Engineering based on their contract bid of $95,000. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Palella,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution to award contract 2014-32, and this is for flood control improvements at 12th Street North and East Evans Boulevard. And this would go to Endicott Engineering based on their bid of $32,070. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call?
Simpson,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Palella,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, that should conclude, if my numbers are right, those resolutions?
Going to go back up to the,
Yes,
Number
we're going back.
Now we got 33.
I think we have
Number
33
16.
bulkhead.
Did we miss one?
33
33,
and
right.
34.
I'm sorry, we did. Resolution to award contract 2014-33, and this would be for bulkhead installations at municipal street ends, and this would go to Endicott Engineering based on their low bid of $29,500. Have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Simpson,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
McCarty,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Palella,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay.
One
Ed,
more.
I have a question.
You have the next one.
We had a lot of projects. Did all of these companies bid on all of these projects? What was the least number of bids we had for any project?
3.
3.
3 of the 6.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Now we go back to Resolution 2014.
There's one more, I think. No, did we withdraw
No,
that
we
one?
withdrew that one,
That's
yeah.
withdrawn?
Yeah, that
Okay.
one's gone. For the golf course remediation. Did I find that one? Here we go. And this is a contract, it would require Whitman to perform all necessary procedures for remedial site and assessment to include groundwater monitoring as required under the Site Remediation Reform Act for the amount of $13,525. And this contract is awarded to Whitman, 7 Pleasant Hill Road, Cranberry, New Jersey. Have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion, Ed, you want to describe this work quickly?
Yes, Mayor. This is the continuation of the remediation at the golf course, the maintenance yard. There was an underground storage tank that was removed, contaminated soil was removed, there were monitoring wells installed, and we were working our way towards closure of that site. The way we work towards that is we monitor, after we remove the soil and remove the tank, we monitor the wells until they reach a certain level. The DEP changed the way they manage contaminated sites. They no longer have a case manager that manages each contaminated site. They now put that on the owner and require the owner to hire a licensed site remediation professional, LSRP, and that professional then manages the case and monitors the wells and then recommends closure and certifies actually compliance and closure to the DEP. So the proposal that you have is Whitman. It's to have Whitman represent us as the LSRP and to monitor the wells and get us to a no further action and site closure.
Thank you, Ed. Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
Lefebvre.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Palilla.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. There was a, I know Mr. Stinson has to leave.
I may not, Mayor. My wife got out early, and
Okay.
I think she may be on her way. I'm trying to confirm.
So you're with us for the duration?
Maybe.
Lucky you.
You had a chance.
You blew it.
That's it. The door was open. I appreciate your honesty. Okay, next we're going to move to the purchase of vehicles for Public Works, Resolution 2014-35. And this is a resolution authorizing the city purchasing agent to purchase through Cherry Hill Winter Ford on New Jersey State contract 4 F-150 4x4 regular cab trucks for the Brigantine Public Works Department for an amount not to exceed $18,899 per vehicle. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Are these trucks able to, are we able to purchase trucks with the new technologies like EcoBoost and things like that boost their mileage?
These four are not. For the price that we got them for, they're bare bone minimum gasoline pickup trucks.
John?
And the trade-off isn't worth it in price?
They're a lot more expensive.
But
John,
what
a
about-
lot of these are replacements for trucks that were damaged.
Right.
They're old, first of all, but also damaged during Sandy, driving around for weeks.
Yes, the four of them are, two of them were from the 1994 vintage. One is a 2004 that was damaged in Sandy, and the last one was a 2003 that has 25,000 miles on it, that was used on the beach mostly. So it was damaged.
John, do these vehicles have ashtrays?
Ashtrays? I don't believe
Probably
vehicles
no.
come with ashtrays
They
anymore.
don't come with them.
Excellent.
I think that's an extra, isn't it?
I believe it's an extra, and we do not get extras.
Okay. Very good. All right, any further discussion on the vehicles? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
Lefebvre.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Palilla.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next we move to Resolution 2014-36, which is a temporary budget increase. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jennifer, if you would, just explain the grants that are coming in, as this will increase our temporary budget that is already temporary.
Right, it only increases the temporary budget for the amount of the grant. So when we get grant funds in, for us to be able to spend those grant funds, we have to have an appropriation in the budget. And you might see throughout the year, because it doesn't come in line with the actual budget process, we put it in the budget as we're able to receive it. So $330,000 of it is for communication equipment, and that's through the AFG firefighters grant. And then another $6,000 is for GIS equipment, and I think Ed left, but I think you might have heard him even refer to some of this GIS equipment when we were going through the floodplain management of something we wanted to move towards to get higher flood ratings. And actually, I want to thank Director Howard for applying and putting in for this grant to get us the $6,000 to start moving ahead with that.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
McClay.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Palilla.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we have manager council committee discussion. We have had a request for a naming of the one of the Brigantine tennis courts. Came through our recreation director and the tennis group that meets down there. Jennifer, we've had these before. They put a plaque on the court. Family as a memorial plaque to someone who spent a lot of time involved in tennis. And Jennifer, you want to Jennifer, talk a little bit about the
Sure.
request?
The request came in for Mr. Sal Cellarola to be dedicated at our tennis courts. He had passed away on December 27th, 2013. He was an avid tennis player for about 20 years, and it was actually recommended by a large group of people who knew, loved him, and played tennis with him. And they contacted the city and asked if we could put a dedication plaque for Mr. Cellarola. And I recommend that, and I know, as the mayor had said, we've done this for other people in the past. And this is a person it looks like our community would really like to have a plaque.
Great. So, I don't know how the rest of the council feels. If we can have a motion to approve naming the tennis court after Sal Cellarola, then they can move forward with getting the plaque and have a dedication at the tennis courts for him at
In
that
the
time.
spring.
In the spring.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, very good. Next, we move to our, do you have anything else, Jennifer, on the?
No.
Okay. Our consent agenda, we have a real estate tax refund resolution 2014-37, Elks raffle license 683, 684, St. Thomas raffle license 685, 686, and 687, and the Chamber of Commerce raffle license 688 and 689. St. Andrews by the Sea beach service request, and the Greenheads 2K swim request. They're bundling, yes. We have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Could we have roll call?
Simpson.
Yes.
McClay.
Yes.
McCarty.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Palilla.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Could we have, at this point, going to open the meeting for public comment. Once again, I want to remind everyone that please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Please use the microphone, speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear you both here in the council chambers and at home. And please bear in mind that we have a 5-minute limit on comments, and we have a new sand timer that is infallible. So we're going to begin. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not as tall as I used to be. My name's Margaret Schindel, S-H-I-N-D-L-E, and I live at 834 West Shore Drive. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak to you. I have Several things, and I'm going to go fast because I know there's a time limit. I have spared you my presence for years. I have sat and watched the proceedings and been happy and entertained and unhappy all at the same time. And at this point, I am mystified by some things that are going on in our city. I'll go quickly. Public Safety Director. Now, these are rhetorical questions. You can talk about it later, so I can get through it. Was Atlantic City used as a model? Because why would anybody use Atlantic City as a model? However, even with the Public Safety Director in Atlantic City, they maintained their chiefs. And when they did have a Public Safety Director, it came from within. So there was a relationship there and a mutual respect and better working because they cared about each other and they did it. And even then, they decided it didn't work. So we've tried it. For many of us, it feels like it didn't work. Now, where are all these people? Well, they're watching on the computer and they're watching on the TV. The numbers have gone up. They're older than I am. They don't want to come out late at night. And they don't think you care. They don't think you're going to do anything differently. My own husband said this is a fool's errand because you won't change your mind. I can't make you change your mind about anything, but darn it, I'm going to try. Now, as far as the Public Safety Director goes, and Dan, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but it is what it is. 20 years ago, when Dan was Officer Dan Howard, he was the spokesman for the Mount Laurel Police Officers Association, and he said having a chief had been his members' long-term goal even during Weinstein's reign. Quote, "A chief is obviously what we want, but we look at it as doing what's best." That was from a policeman who then came here to be our Public Safety Director, albeit interim. That confuses me. It mystifies me. Now, you don't have to answer all this because it's uncomfortable, but, you know, what's the hiring process? Did you all look at the resume and hire them, or was it your city director, if I may, Jen, if it was there? It's not too late to fix it. You know, look at it. You tried it. It demoralized the police and the fire and the beach people, and they're really important because you're going to want them. If you have a fire, or if you have a little fender bender, or if you need to get some old lady like me to the hospital or some kind of thing like that, these are the important people, and we have to take care of them first. So there it is. City Administrator. I just really think that she may be a terrific gal and everything, and I've talked to Jen, I've met her and had a little private talk with her, but I think she's in over her head because there's been so many questionable decisions, in my estimation. That's my opinion. Questionable decisions like, why are we bonding for vehicles and getting expensive vehicles? In other words, borrowing more money for vehicles when the police would be happy with sedans or should be happy with sedans. I thought to myself, what the heck's going on in our city that the police are driving around these big SUVs that are more expensive to buy, more expensive to outfit, more expensive to run, and more expensive to maintain. Now, you know, if you're short on money in your own budgets or your own businesses, you pay attention to that stuff. And you don't keep borrowing. You know there's got to be limits. You know how to run your household. So I have a question about that. I don't know if that's something that you all were party to or if it came from here or there or wherever it came from. But I'm asking you to question this kind of stuff because it's, guess what? Our money. I pay a lot of taxes and I care how you spend our money. It's not just like this phantom pot of money. I know, but when there have been other causes that we all liked, we got the money. I'll go as fast as I can, please.
Could you finish up your thoughts if you would, please?
Let me
Mrs.
finish.
Shin?
Chiefs, please restore them. Please restore them. Put the police and the fire and the beach patrol back the way they're supposed to be. Take care of them so they can take care of us. Insurance. I just was listening to this thing about buying the trucks. Was that
Ms.
insurance
Shin, if I could
money?
ask you to, if you would, please.
I am. Were they insured?
Pardon me?
Were those trucks insured? Are we buying new trucks with insurance money? Or weren't they insured? And if we got money from insurance from Sandy, are we using that to buy fire trucks? Because we have a tacit relationship, a tacit agreement
If
with.
you would.
I am.
Thank
We
you.
have a tacit agreement when we do something with insurance. We as taxpayers give you the money to buy the insurance, and your agreement with us is that you will use it to restore assets like fire trucks that we pay to insure. So it's your moral obligation to do it. Maybe not your legal obligation, but your moral obligation.
Thank
One
you.
more, one
Thank you.
more. Out-of-towners.
5 minutes.
Oh, come on, that's the first time I've been here.
Yes,
Give me a break.
If you, Miss Chandler, if
Please.
you can come up again if you want.
Please.
You can come up a second time in the
I will.
process. You
I
won't.
want you to
Mrs.
examine.
We have to stick to the 5-minute.
Okay, I'm going to go.
Thank-
I just want you to
thank you.
examine how many out-of-towners have been involved, and I'll be back.
Thank you. Yes, John.
Norm Waiter, 600 East Beach Avenue. One question I have for John Doring. Everybody thinks it might be crazy, but is there any more wooden storm drains in the ground in Brigantine?
You might want to ask Ed, do you know of any wooden
Ed's a little
storm?
older than John.
No, I don't think so.
Nobody knows?
We don't think there's any.
Oh, you don't think? You're not sure?
We're not 100% sure.
Okay. Okay. Not just, little
Right.
little question, that's all. And first, and then again, I'm a little disappointed in the naming of the tennis courts. I think, I don't know whether Mary Holtz was ever asked or whatever, but here's a lady been on this island forever, gave her tennis courts there at her house, the basketball courts at her house, gave lights to the city, the people in the city, when there was no tennis courts in Brigantine, no basketball courts in Brigantine. They were the only ones in Brigantine, period. And I don't know whether her name was even mentioned, but I think it's a mistake that the tennis courts weren't named after her. Thank you.
Norm, just so you understand, actually the basketball courts down at the 42nd Street are named after Mrs. Holtz, but they're named after the Holtz family courts. We're not talking about the tennis. We're talking about one tennis court, not the whole complex. There's one court. They put a plaque in there for that individual, and there are a couple of other plaques down there already for certain individuals who played a lot on those courts. But we have named the basketball complex down at 42nd Street after the Holtz family. Okay. And that's from somebody who played on the Holtz courts. I remember.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, John.
John Johnson, 36 Coquille Beach Drive. I'd like to talk about drainage, actually the lack of drainage at the intersection of Coquille Beach and Harbor Beach Drive. Not even thinking about Sandy event, but 3 or 4 times every year when we have a heavy downpour, that whole area floods. So it seriously affects that south end of the island, everybody in Coquille and Dolphin Cove. And I would think that I haven't heard anything addressing that, but it's an area that vehicles get flooded, ruin their engines. A neighbor of mine in a pickup truck on June 18th, when we had that flash flood, it ruined her truck. She had to get a new engine, and there were also 2 other small cars stuck in that water at that time. So I would like to ask especially Rick if you could champion this idea and see if we can get some service to help that out. Tony, your neighbors are affected by that as well. So I'd like to see, is there any plan right now to do anything there?
Ed, are we moving anywhere on that particular drainage problem?
I know that Public Works was out to clean the system right there at Coquille Beach, but John, I think it's a larger issue than that. So I'll get with John and I'll give Jennifer a report on what needs to be done. The storm drain at Coquille Beach, if I remember correctly, crosses Harbor Beach Boulevard, runs behind Spartan Harbor, down to Lagoon Boulevard, and then out Falls, out Lagoon Boulevard. So it's tidally impacted, and it goes a long way. So the first step would be to get with John that it's being cleaned and maintained, which I'm sure it is. Second step would be to video the line, to identify if there's issues in that line that we're not aware of. Maybe some blockage somewhere along the way, and work our way all the way to that outfall, and find out what is restricting, if anything, what is restricting the operation of that system.
All right, well, I know everything always comes back to money. So is there any Sandy money or any city money available to take some real action? I know I personally had talked to Ernie about that, and Ernie had said to me that that is in elevation. That point on Harbor Beach Boulevard is the low spot, so therefore it gets the heaviest amount of water running down all the streets, whether there's an inlet at every corner, which I don't think every corner has an inlet, but that creates the ponding effect that impacts that area. So I know it's always about money. Rick, I hope you'll be able to push the city or Sandy people to give us some money to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Ed, is that location on any of the capital improvements lists? No.
Yes, sir.
My name is John Tamanglo, 4705 Atlantic Brigantine Boulevard. I'm here on a matter that has nothing to do with what you went over tonight. I'm interested in a suit against Fred's Brigantine Golf, against the city of Brigantine. There's two portions of the case. There was one already done and finished in court. It was called Fred's Complete Auto. That's been settled, but that's only 1% of the case. This other case is like 99%. It's him, it's Fred's Register Golf Inc. and Fred Ray against the city of Brigantine. And I need to know the status of that because I'm personally involved and businessly involved.
Well,
So
refer
maybe
to
somebody
our
can help me out.
solicitor. I don't know if you're ready to comment on that particular.
It's not that I'm not ready to comment, and it's I've never heard of it.
Okay.
I mean, if there is some information that the municipality has, we'll be glad to take a look at it and try to be of assistance, but I have never heard of what this gentleman is speaking about.
Well, that's why I'm here, because no one seems to know nothing about an ongoing suit. And it's kind of screwy now for anybody to know what's going on. And I'm on the tail end of it, and it involves a lot of money. So,
I suggest you give Mr. Cerny a call, or go through the city manager's office to see what's available.
Yeah, if you email me, I'll pull the records we have here, get in contact with the solicitor and the prior solicitor, and see what information I can find that we can give to
okay.
you.
I was just in court with one of them 7 months ago. That's already been resolved.
Okay.
The other one's not.
Yeah, I think all these lawsuits started before Fred and I were here.
That's
but we
exactly
have-
correct.
Yeah, but we can get records of it. That's
All right.
not a problem.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Good night.
You too. Yes, Mike?
Michael Feely, 314 43rd Street. I'm here representing Briggs Strong. The Board of Briggs Strong just recently passed a resolution to ask the mayor and council to pass a non-binding resolution in support of the House of Representatives passing an amended Bigger Waters Act. For those of you that may not know, I did write an article last week in the Beachcomber that was fairly extensive. But the Bigger Waters Act was passed in 2012, which basically was requiring the FEMA flood insurance plan to pay for itself. As a result of that, the effect was going to impact property owners dramatically, looking at the possibility of 25% increases annually for a period of 4 years. Now, there's been movement in both the Senate and the House to lessen the impact of Biggert Waters. In fact, one of the strongest proponents is Senator Waters, who has all of a sudden discovered, Senate or House, maybe she's a representative, all of a sudden discovered the impact that it was having on her own constituents. So she and Lobiando and others have gotten behind this movement to modify the impact on their constituents and people that were going to be impacted by the flood insurance program. Two elements. One was that there was going to be a 2-year FEMA affordability study before there would be any implementation of increases, and if there were increases, that those increases would be stretched out from 4 years to an 8-year period of time. Now, the Senate approved that their part of this bill last week. Senator Menendez was intricately involved in helping pass that bill. Speaker of the House, John Boehner, has gone on record saying that he would not bring this bill to the floor in its present form. This is going to have, if it does not pass, if it's not brought to the floor and passed by the House of Representatives, it's going to have a dramatic impact both on the residents of Brigantine, but to a certain degree it's going to decimate a lot of our real estate business because it'll eliminate grandfather clauses. So the Brigstrong would like the council to consider passing, as I said, a non-binding resolution to be forwarded to Representative Lobiando's office, and hopefully that will bring some ammunition that he can take to the Speaker of the House. Thank you.
Mike, as we discussed, and I discussed a little bit today with the solicitor about putting together this resolution, it is a bipartisan effort. Senator Menendez was able to get it through the Senate, and Congressman Lobiando is working in the House for this reform. This is something that they've been working on for the better part of, I guess, a year and a half once those maps came out. So I've asked our solicitor, I have some information that I received from Congressman Lobiando's office. We'll be reaching out to get some statistics. I wanted to get some flood insurance statistics from Ed Stinson and the number of policies in Brigantine and what the impact would be here, and then bring it back to council and we could vote on that resolution and then forward it to our neighboring communities. And of course to the Freeholder Board and anyone else who would like to vote on this, because it is something, the first wave of financial difficulty were the FEMA maps. We're waiting to see what these are preliminary, waiting on what the firm maps will be whenever they are adopted. But the issue too is the phase-in under Biggert Waters, which is the law right now, the phase-in of those increased policies. So I will bring that back, or we'll have it developed for council at the next meeting. I could ask council tonight if they would support such a resolution so we could authorize the solicitor to spend the time on that and bring it back for memorialization at the next meeting.
There are also several petitions circulating on the internet. Maybe that we could put a list of them in the paper and get people to sign on to those. Because, I mean, the biggest problem is the House of Representatives. Representative Boehner says he's not going to touch it. That's the biggest block.
That was his initial response. However, he has modified it.
Is it?
He said he would consider a modified bill, but obviously political pressure helps in any case. And if the city of Brigantine can go on record and hopefully, as the first resolution was tonight, if the other shore communities and the Board of Freeholders gets on board, that will certainly assist the process. Thank you.
So we need a motion and a second to ask the solicitor to develop a resolution for the next meeting that would support the bipartisan efforts to reform the Bigger Waters Act to allow for an extended, at a minimum, an extended phase-in of increased insurance rates.
And Mayor, there's no expenditure on that. I'll just do it. Just get me the information. We're
Okay.
not charging you anything extra for that.
Thank you, Fred.
Okay, just get us the information. I'll take care of it.
Great. Okay, we need a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Fred. And we'll get that information and the additional information we'll get from, hopefully Ed can grab some of those numbers that we have for the flood insurance. Okay, any other public comment? Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. I have a comment and a request based on an article that appeared in the press on January the 2nd, headlined, Cumberland County Lets Residents See Budget. And what they're doing is all of the budget proposals are listed on the county website, and there's an email address and a telephone number by which residents can call or email their comments on the proposals. Now, since it is a working document, obviously there will be some changes, but the changes will also be listed on the website. My request to this council is, since it is budget time, why can't we do the same thing? Did you see the article?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And I didn't see the article either, but Jennifer, don't we customarily post our budget anyway to the website?
We post it once it's adopted to the website. But I think what Ann's saying is during the budget process,
Yes.
Cumberland County, and I didn't see this article, but I'm gathering from what Ann said, is during the budget process, they post it as it's being developed.
That's correct, and that's the key issue here. Not once it's introduced, but once, excuse me, before it reaches that point, and you have proposals, they go onto the website. So why can't we do that?
Is that something we can do?
Well, evidently, the county's doing it, Cumberland
Well-
County's doing it.
It's up to me. Ask the auditor first.
Yeah, I think, I asked Fred's advice because I don't know legally, but he said we should probably ask the auditor first, just to make sure, because I don't believe there's a legal issue, but I can't answer that at this point.
And it does go through a lot of iterations before it is finalized, but,
I know,
and it is-
evidently, their
which is
budget
done here at a
is...
public meeting.
Pardon me?
Those discussions are held here at a public meeting.
Not in the open. What we get, the first time we get to see it is when it's been introduced. At that point, it's pretty well put together. The point here and the virtue of this is these proposals are available to the public before that point is reached, and people can comment on it. That's important. Obviously, it's legal, and there's no reason we can't do it. People need to see this.
Ms. Phillips, you're not going to get an argument out of me.
Good.
Even if you're looking for one. But,
No, I'm not.
I don't know, Jennifer, if it can be done, you'll check with the auditor?
Yeah, Fred just advised me to ask the auditor first,
Okay.
so I should, I'll answer at the next meeting.
Next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other public comment? John?
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. I also have on my list, council, that maybe a Saturday workshop before the final budget is presented to be voted on, that the public can come on a Saturday morning, more relaxed atmosphere, and speak their opinions about the budget. Maybe that's appropriate time. I know in your calendar planning for the year, you did state that, well, if in fact we need extra meetings, we can decide then. Maybe this is one of those times that would be appropriate since it's so important. I'd like to get back to the smoking policy, now that I can speak about it. I did ask specifically, and I'm really concerned I mean, I really want to know, Councilman Picardi and Councilman Dr. Kern's opinion on the city having a smoking policy, since they're both in the medical field.
I'm not going to argue with that. I think it's an excellent idea. And I agree with what the mayor said, a policy where you can't smoke on any municipal property or in any of the vehicles. That makes sense. It makes sense health-wise. It makes sense even maintenance-wise to some degree, because the electronics in the vehicles get a little horsed up when there's a lot of smoke in there. When I worked at Atlanticare, that was the rule. You could not smoke on any part of the property, or even in your own vehicle if it was on Atlanticare property. And it was a phased-in approach. First they had pavilions outside so the smokers could smoke outside the buildings, and then that was done away with, and there was no smoking, period. And it makes sense for the municipality to do it, just as it makes sense for a healthcare organization to do it. The data is in. There's no argument.
Well, of course I agree. I agree with CVS, who today announced that they will stop selling cigarettes as of October. You can't be in the healthcare business and allow people to do things to their body that will hurt them and cost you.
Well, then I asked Mayor, again, a year and a half ago, I did bring this up when we were talking about smoking on the beach, and it was recommended that our Drug Alliance Council take a look at it, report back to council. It's been a year and a half. It may have fell through the cracks, but to prevent that again, maybe this is an opportune time where we are getting new vehicles, that a policy be set in place before they hit the streets. And I ask the city manager, also with the work with the personnel handbook, do we have a time frame that this can be decided? Can you give me a time frame?
The personnel policy, after we get through the budget process, we'll start looking at that again and present something to council in a few months. Right now, we're looking at the budget.
I don't think you're going to get anything from the Alliance for the Prevention of Drug and Alcohol Abuse for just a simple reason. They'll gather data and present stuff, but the mentality of the group is educate, don't legislate. But there's never been a successful anti-smoking program to ban it from any areas that's been voluntary. If it's not legislated, it hasn't happened. Just like the issue of plastic bags. It doesn't work voluntarily, and that's been proven again and again.
That's fine. I just wanted a time frame. We're looking at a couple months to be brought to the council for policy approval.
Well, the policy manual has to be brought back to be looked at. I think there are a
Right.
number of things
Okay,
that we're
thank
talking
you.
about, but
Thank you very much.
I just want to make it clear, though, when we're saying a few months, we're talking about after the budget process.
Right,
So
well-
if we get something adopted in March, then it would be a few weeks after that. If we're not adopting until May, then it'll be after that point.
well, if we, and I'll defer to Fred on this, if you wanted to pass a policy not to allow for smoking
Do that.
in city-owned vehicles and on, city property by employees, is that something that you have to wait for the personnel policy to do?
Well, should it just be limited to employees? I mean, it should be everybody, no?
Well, yeah, obviously you can't have,
Well,
it gets into some gray areas.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Like the golf course, you got golfers out there, they're smoking.
And we have the beach, which
The
is
beach.
public property.
Beach.
Right.
The ball fields, which are
Well,
public
we really don't own the
property.
beach, but we own the golf course
Yeah.
and the ball fields.
Yeah,
So, it probably has to be worked out with, Fred's language and everything. You're doing that for free, right?
They're all for free tonight.
Put it under the umbrella.
How many times in one night?
I also know other municipalities in Atlantic County have no smoking policies on their municipal properties, especially City Hall. The emergency work that the engineer's been working on, will that, and I know he has worked on work before, and the city council approved, which in fact lowered the public's insurance rates, percentage. Is it the work that was approved for tonight, will that also continue to improve the city's flood insurance rates because of the approval of council authorizing these projects?
Ed, I'm sure anything mitigation-wise helps, and I'll let Ed defer.
And that's his time.
We do,
Yes, it's
we
on
do
his time.
gain, we do gain points in our CRS for flood control projects. So it may not improve us to the next level, so the next higher percentage discount, but we do get graded and we do score points for it, yes.
I think that's a hidden value there when the costs are mentioned, or what these projects are and the engineering costs. I think that's a hidden value that may not be realized unless stated. It was stated at the last meeting that the city manager and also the public safety director are not under contract. Does that mean that they're simply employees like everybody else, or is there another agreement, whatever it's called, that direct their employment?
They're at-will employees.
Well, the statute actually outlines a lot of the city manager's employment rights. So it's actually in statute. But I think the
Is that
question you're
sufficient?
raising is a valid one, and that is what other things go with an employment package, and that's something that-
Vacation time?
Exactly, and
increases
that's
and all that?
something that we should probably quantify. So I'm sure it is, but somehow it's in writing so that everyone is aware of what it is. Is that your concern?
Is that in process?
I think it's something clearly that could be developed.
Is that a yes?
I don't know that it's
No.
in process right now. It's a,
If you're asking me, Mayor, I don't know. I mean, this is not anything that has previously been raised with me.
Right.
I'm not sure what the point is.
the policy manual in the city would define some of that, I'm sure. But there are other areas that I guess at this point are not clear.
Hiring
But
letter or something like that, or anything?
I thought we were
Yeah.
gonna
I mean-
get a job description plan together. Didn't we talk about that?
We do have a personnel policy for all non-represented employees. And I think the mayor and the councilmen that were here at the time I was hired, know that there was a lot of discussions between council and myself with the help of the consultants, what was it, Jersey Professional
Right.
Management, that went over all these things, including asking me if I wanted a city vehicle, and I said no. And they asked me if I wanted to have an additional amount per month in case I had to travel. I said no. And we went into vacation time, and I said I would want what any other employee would have, which starting in the door, and that's what I received. And then when Ed was hired as well, you know, he receives the same amount. So that will employees, including myself, the director, the city engineer, were all at-will employees. Now, some of the other at-will employees, like the clerk, the CFO, the tax assessor, and the tax collector, they're all at-will, but they're covered under statute, similar to the manager's position as well, but I wouldn't get tenure like those other positions. So there was discussion at the point of hiring what I would get.
that's, I mean, some of it is covered in the city policy manual anyway.
Right,
After so many years of service, you receive so many days vacation and things of that nature.
right.
Right.
Mhm.
So my question again is, if there's no contract for these positions, I understand that there are job descriptions in city ordinance for the city manager. My question is, since there, in lieu of an absence of a contract, is there another document that dictates all the parameters of those positions' salaries, or are they put into the category of an employee, thus guided by the personnel handbook? That's my question.
The
I think
salaries,
it's probably
yes.
both, because there is a salary ordinance, there's a personnel handbook,
And
so
in the
it's all
case,
the above.
in the case of the manager, there are some statutory
Exactly.
provisions.
And all non-representative employees are covered under the salary ordinance, whereas the contracted employees are not. They're covered under their contract.
So it's
So
under
that's
ordinance
perfectly
and
clear
under
now?
statute.
I'm sorry, John?
So no other, a written arrangement needs to be provided this time. The council's comfortable with the current condition of the employment?
John, our previous city manager had a contract, But that contract clearly stated that he was an employee at will of council, and he could be terminated. Now, he had to be given notice, but he could be terminated for reason or no reason. Jennifer Blumenthal, when she was hired, we asked her if she wanted a contract, and she said she didn't need a contract because she serves at the will of council. As long as she's doing a good job, she knows that council will keep her here. And if council feels that she's not doing an appropriate job, she'll be given notice and she'll be removed.
Councilman, that's fine, but that was done 2 or 3 years ago, and there's nothing written down. There's nothing to say this is what was discussed 2 or 3 years ago. That's the concern, excuse me, that's the concern that I have.
It's time's not up, and the
If the
judge,
council's-
excuse me a second, John. The judge, when a person's time is up, is the clerk will notify me, and then we'll try and move the person along, okay?
I would think that there was something written down, Councilman, just as the prior one, whatever you want to decide, that it's written down and signed and agreed by both parties, so it's understood in the future. And especially if there's a litigation situation that may transpire, which you know happens all the time. That's my only concern, that those talks should have been written down and agreed and be able to be seen by the public. I don't know what was discussed 2 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And just to clear this up, hopefully, there are a number of documents that address this for the non-represented employees, personnel manual, statutory requirements under law. May not be a bad idea as we do the new personnel manual, and maybe we refer to them so that everyone knows where to go if they're looking for that. It would just clear up if there's any ambiguity.
Yeah, and I just make a statement because of what Mr. Pucci said. In my career, I've never had a contract, and I've never sued any of my employers or left on bad terms. So I don't like being, that insinuated that I would do that.
Thank you.
There's no insinuation here. It was a generality. What I mean,
Thank
there's no insinuation about our city manager specifically.
All right, and
Thank you, John.
From my perspective, let me follow up on some of this. I've never had any issue at all with the fact that there's not a written contract for the manager. The manager is by statute an employee at will. That's what matters. Our public safety director is an employee at will. He can be terminated at any time by our city manager if she should choose to do that. So I'm not concerned about that. And let me clarify one other point which some people seem to be fixated on, including one of our local websites, which is, can people go for a smoke break during the council meeting? The manager can go for a smoke break. Any one of our consultants can go for a smoke break. They can go for a walk. They can go for a potty break if they want to. We're all adults here. I prefer people didn't smoke. I'm a militant non-smoker myself. But if somebody wants to have a smoke in the middle of a 7-hour meeting, they're free to do that. We members of council, more than once, have gotten up to go to the bathroom, stretch our legs, or whatever. It's not an endurance test. And if a person wants to go out, if there's something that happens in the interim that requires her input, we'll simply ask her when she comes back in. So let's put that nonsense behind us. As cute as the little cartoon was on Brigantine now, and maybe now he has an idea for a sequel, maybe we can do potty break. But let's grow up.
Rick, thank you for pointing out that it's not an endurance test. Any other public comment? Anyone else? Yes, Maggie.
Anybody else?
5
Give us
minutes
a little
is
break.
faster than I thought. Margaret Schindel again, 834 West Shore Drive. Jennifer, my question is for you. Was there any insurance money that came to Brigantine for the fire trucks from the damage from Sandy?
Yes, there was money that came in for the fire trucks, and you asked about the vehicles as well as the police cars and other vehicles we might have lost. Those vehicles, and Johnny's here who compiled all the insurance, we received very little money for. Johnny, it was like $300 the most we might have received for one vehicle, because they don't give you insurance to replace at the replacement cost. They give it to you at the depreciated cost. Now the fire truck, yes, we received money in and we bonded for the rest of the money because it didn't cover the total amount of the cost of the equipment, the truck and the apparatus we needed it for.
Okay, what was the amount of the insurance? Did we underinsure our assets?
No, but when you get insurance money in, you get a depreciated amount, not the amount to replace the vehicle.
Do you know what the amount was for the insurance?
Johnny, do you remember the amounts at this point? I think it was
For the
around.
fire trucks?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
offhand.
have the
it
insurance
on me, but
table
I
on
can
me.
give it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I have it in my
You can
office.
contact us
Okay, I'm
tomorrow.
disappointed that you don't know the amount, so.
Okay.
I would also like to question the hiring of the legal firm that we hired, Bernstein. The legal firm has been fired from public jobs around the state because he admitted billing taxpayers for work while at the same time advocating legal services for porn sites. His firm, Bernstein Associates, has long earned money from the porn industry, while Bernstein himself moderates chat.whynotmasters.com, a website dispensing free legal advice to pornographers. It is billed as the ultimate adult webmaster resource site and is a one-stop shop for peddlers of the online hardcore pornography industry. My question for you is, can we do any better than that? I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that that's the best our city can do. I don't know who hired this firm, but I would like you to please reconsider that as a representative of our city. And the last thing that I'm going to say, hope I get it in, I'm very uneasy about the possible and perceived association with a man named George Norcross. I grew up in Camden County. I know about this man. Philadelphia Magazine just came out, and right at the top, the Katz Norcross War. This man plays for keeps. I don't want him here for our city. It can be very dangerous.
He's
Right
not
down
here. That's a
I would like to,
fabrication.
pardon me?
That's a fabrication. He has nothing to do with Brigantine at all.
That's good. That's good. I hope
period.
that's true.
So then why keep bringing it up?
I
This has
hope-
been going on and on and on. It's ridiculous. It's like the issue about somebody taking a break.
Well, as I told you, this is the first time I came here. But the things that are in here are not fabrications about South Jersey politics, and I want to make sure that we don't invite the wolf to the door or open the door for him to come in.
Excuse me.
No,
Mrs.
it's a different-
Mrs. Schindel is speaking right now, and if you want to speak, I'll
It's
let
a
you.
different
Okay.
Norcross.
Mrs. Schindel, if you would stay on your council comments to council,
I'm sorry.
please.
It's a different Norcross. It's just George Norcross, not Donald. Okay? So that was my question about that association, where he said, don't try to be friends with me. I don't become friends with the people I work with. The white hat isn't me. I'm the black hat. So I'm just asking you, in concern for the town, for the city. Now, just to finish up. I asked my daughter, you know, I feel really serious about some of these issues. And as I told you, even my husband said, don't bother. And I said to her, what do you think? You know, what do you really think about? She said, if you feel passionate about something, go and speak. Put yourself out there. When she was 20 years old, she felt really strongly and passionately about a very serious health issue. And she put herself out there, and she was criticized, laughed at, questioned, but she stuck with it because she really meant it, and because she really trusted that there were people who would step up and do better for everybody. I'm just asking you, please, I know you're trying, I know you work hard, you have long meetings, but please don't question my sincerity about asking you all to just do better. I want Brigantine to be the happy, good, kind, loving place that it always used to be. And I don't think that's rose-colored glasses or Pollyanna. I think we're worth it together. Have positive actions and common sense, and have good people that we hire, whether it's a lawyer or an engineer or whoever it is, and keep as many local people as we can. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, any public comment? Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Pucci.
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. I noticed tonight there was no smoke breaks. So I guess what happened at the last council meeting did some good. I've never seen any other professionals here, paid professionals, take a smoke break and leave the meeting because they had something better to do. And I totally disagree with Councilman DeLucre's suggestion that any paid employee here can just go out and take a walkathon somewhere and that's acceptable. That is not acceptable, it's not professional, and it shouldn't be done. If there's reason for some type of break for whatever you have to do besides your so-called funny potty break, I wasn't speaking of that, then the mayor should, after a certain time period, call a break so everybody can take a break and go on a walkathon, not our paid city manager. That was the point I was trying to make at the last council meeting. The point was well taken because there was no smoke breaks tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pucci. Any other comment? Okay. Yes, Mr. Marchese.
Pardon my unsteadiness. Emilio Marcosi, 4101 Atlantic Brigantine Boulevard, Brigantine, New Jersey. Again, I am a registered Republican. I am a member of the Taxpayers Association, and I'm a great admirer of our new council makeup. I want to remind some people that in the last two elections, we overwhelmingly turned city council from the old regime into the new regime, and for good reason. I don't know what some people remember, but it was known as the Old Boys Network, and unfortunately, too many people on the city payroll became, they had a term used, they got on the nipple, whatever that meant. Since council has changed its face, there have been remnants of the old regime that will stop at nothing to discredit this new council. They call in people from all parts of the state to protect their own selfish self-interest. Never do you hear them speak about the burdens of the taxpayers of Brigantine. It's always them. And if they don't get their way too many times, they insinuate and state publicly, and they mention the word, they're going to sue. They're going to take us to court. They're going to make us spend more money than we ever dreamed of. I think that this is totally shameful. If they love Brigantine, they should start thinking about the general population who, in fact, the majority did vote in the last two elections to elect new faces to change the old regime's ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Marcosi. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion. We do need an executive session. Before we go into the executive session, I want to just address something that's been out there for a while and ask council to consider this option. We have received a petition that has been certified by the clerk to eliminate the position of Public Safety Director. That is going to take some time to, it's going to go through a process. We'll come back to council for authorization, and then it would result in a special election on that particular issue, which will be costly to the taxpayers moving forward. I believe we can resolve this matter immediately, and we can do it efficiently, and we can hopefully do it in a bipartisan fashion to eliminate the position of Public Safety Director and restore the chiefs of the Police Department, Fire Department, and Beach Patrol. And I would like to make that motion that we do that tonight and move forward.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
No offense, Dan.
Yeah, Phil, I have some discussion. First, you're referring to a petition which, as far as I know, has not been circulated yet to the members of council. It would be nice to see the petition and see what it is that's being asked before you ask us to vote on something. Plus, there are timelines, as you know, for the council to act, and we're not under any time pressure to do that. So, what I will generously describe as your grandstanding on this issue is not appreciated. There is a petition out there, and the petition, people should know this, the petition, if it is deemed to be valid, and I gather our attorney has looked at it and our clerk has looked at it, so I'll assume that that has been done, although again, I haven't seen this yet. Council has a period of time in which to act to adopt whatever ordinance it is that's being requested that we adopt. If we don't do that, then there will be a special election. Now, in order to get this matter before council, required only 15% of the people who voted at the last election for General Assembly. I'm not sure how many signatures they have on this, but 15% of the signatures translated to a number in the neighborhood of 400 or 500. Now, that's just the people who voted, and at our last General Assembly election, statewide turnout was about 37.5%. Even if I assume that Brigantine's turnout was higher, and I don't know, and if it was, let's assume it was 50%. In effect, that means that 7.5% of the registered voters of this town are able to get that particular proposed piece of legislation in front of council, and if council declines to take the action that that 7.5% of the registered voters is asking, then it's going to cost everybody for a special election, whatever the cost of that is. I don't have those numbers. You can ballpark it, 15, 20,000. And to what end? Well, I'll tell you to what end. The end is that the mayor and Mr. Simpson can't get what they want by going through the legal processes. And that's a continuing refrain, and it's very depressing for the rest of us who took an oath and take it seriously, to do things the right way, to follow the law, to follow the structure that this town has. And that would refer in particular to the city manager. At the last meeting, Mr. Simpson proposed, as if it had just occurred to him that night, a solution, in his words, to the ongoing contract negotiations with firefighters. Well, that was on January 15th. On January 14th, as Mr. Simpson I'm sure knew, our designated negotiator, that being the city manager, had presented a complete, detailed, comprehensive proposal to the firefighters, which included, surpassed, and was far superior to the off-the-cuff recommendation that was given by Mr. Simpson at that meeting purely for purposes of getting a headline and getting some coverage. And then to compound that, Mr. Simpson and the mayor said, well, we should negotiate as a group. Council as a group should negotiate. It was covered by the papers and by a couple of the websites afterwards. I guess they must have turned off the TV or stopped the streaming web when we got to the part immediately after that where it was pointed out repeatedly, you can't do that, it's illegal, it's unworkable, and we have a person in the city manager whom, if you had any ideas on how to negotiate the contract, or terms ought to be in there, you should have said it at one of the many times we were in that back room talking about it, but you never did. If you had an idea that came to you at some other time, you could communicate with the city manager, which is what we are supposed to do, which is what 5 of us do, and 2 of you never do, because the game has been and will be, until the next election, make the manager look bad. If the manager looks bad, then the Democrats look bad, and we win. Well, that disgusts me. I am here to try and get this town moving forward and progress, and you have 2 people who have plainly, in my view, quit on this town. And that was long before you signed the petition last year and championed that to change the form of government, the very form of government, Andy, that not a year before you had run to be elected to and taken a sworn oath to be a part of and to uphold. And the very form of government that you, Phil, spent 20 years running, and the only thing that changed was the fact that you were no longer in control. So, I respectfully, or should I say with all due respect, your favorite phrase, with all due respect, I decline to consider any resolution of any kind tonight to do anything about the police chiefs or the public safety director. I want to see what is out there. If you want to bring it up and get it on the agenda for the next meeting, go right ahead.
Well, Rick, you sit there and read your business book and say, hey, guys, you got any information? Bring it forward. Well, at least I made an effort, Rick. I came up with an idea, and, you know, you're right, it was off the cuff because it was just coming to me. And I said, let's see if we can get these guys together. They're all Brigantine people, and we're trying to move forward. We're not sitting here grandstanding and sitting here for, you talk and talk and talk and talk. It's mumbo jumbo most of the time, Rick. Yeah. And, you know, you sit here and talk about somebody putting in the letters for Oprah. Well, that's a First Amendment right. You're an attorney. You should uphold that. So when somebody comes up and speaks, you want to cross-examine them. So they have a right to come up and talk, just like this side is the Democrats, this side is the Republicans, and, you know, and again, Phil respects everybody that comes up to that microphone. So it's not me against this group over here. It's not Phil against this group. I love these people over here. It's not that, you know. Joe's friend out there, you know, I pointed at him, you know, we just had a little laugh together. So it's not us against the world. We have a problem. We're not moving forward with anything. All we do is talk and do nothing. Nothing's resolved. You know, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, I asked somebody to make a decision on chiefs. You know, let's make it. Dan, are you the full-time public safety director or not? Let's make a decision. Why can't we make it right now then? You know, let somebody make a motion and say, Dan Howard's our new public safety director, full-time, and then we're done with it. It's over with, you know, and then we can move on to the next topic. But no, you want to sit here and talk and go on, cross-examine people when they come up here if you don't like what they said. So Rick, you know, I don't know what we can do. We call for a resolution here tonight, and if you want to vote no against it, fine. But let's vote Dan in. I'm tired of beating up on this guy, and I keep on saying no disrespect. I have no hard feelings against this man right here. It's just the position. I think we need chiefs, and that's my position. Just because we're different in that, Rick, you don't have to sit here and try to belittle me or anything like that. If somebody out there has every right to go around with a petition and say, hey, I want this guy off the council, I want that guy, if they get enough votes, if it's 37.23 they got it, you know. So let's not sit here and pretend we're going to not get rid of Dan Howard. Are we going to get rid of Dan Howard? It's going on and on and on for months now. It's been going on since Dan's been here, before Dan got here. Let's talk about, are we going to make him public safety director and put this thing to rest tonight? Why don't we do that, Rick?
Why don't we work on the petition? We have the
well,
petition
Yeah.
that's been put together. We have to see what it's all about.
Well, let me-
Otherwise,
that
it's
petition goes
useless to
forward,
do
that's
anything.
But
gonna
don't
be a
sit there,
special
I'm
election.
going around and getting names and spearheading this thing and everything. Yeah, did I sign it? Yes, I did. All due respect.
Yeah. Then you know what the petition says, Andy. You know that it plays out that if it is accepted,
Right.
and if the council doesn't act in the way the petition
Right,
asks,
and it
then it
goes
goes to a
into
special election.
special election.
Why would you appoint somebody to a permanent position knowing that in a couple months that could all change?
Because we've been sitting here talking about it.
Andy, if I could...
Time after time after time after time, we just keep talking and we don't do anything.
I don't know what meetings you attend, because you can go down the agenda from any council meeting.
The
Things
meeting
are
I
getting
attend
done.
is
The
you
business of
sit
this
here and
town is
cross-examine
getting
people.
done. Your issue is not getting done.
No issue's getting done.
No, that's completely untrue and wrong.
Oh.
If you paid a little more attention, you'd know that.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah,
Mis-
yeah, I mean,
Mr.
you're a real
DeLucre,
player.
I have to address a couple of things that you said because even in your circular logic, I was able to pick out some things that really offended me. Number one, not sure what you're saying, but I think you said that we did something that was illegal. I'd like to know what that is.
All right,
But-
Phil, I don't know where you get that idea.
Well,
I did not say
think-
that or imply that.
I think you said that, Rick. Now, the other thing I think that you talk about is that there's some problem with initiative and referendum. Let me remind you that we've had initiative and referendum on this island before. It held up the community center project, cost the city a lot of money. Okay, we had $100,000 in legal fees. And it was a good thing that people had a right to vote on that because they reaffirmed it again that they wanted the project, and 200 people had a place to stay during Sandy that would have been stuck in their homes with no electricity, no heat, and no one knows what would have happened to them. The other issue is, the reason I bring it up is we can avoid the election, we can avoid all of this if we vote on it tonight. And I did make the suggestion, and this really offends me, I did make the suggestion that we meet with the unions, that we talk to them to hear what their grievances are, so we all hear the same thing. And I was told by you that that's illegal. But Rick, unless I'm getting bad information, right after that meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you not and two other members of council meet with representatives of the union?
That's exactly right, Phil. Usually, your suggestion was that the council as a body should be the negotiating body. That is wrong. No, let me finish. That is what you suggested. And I said then, I say now, that's not proper. We did meet because Tony Palella, in December, after there were many comments made at the council meeting by members of the police and fire, reached out through the manager, because that's the way our system works, or is supposed to work, to set up appointments. And representatives from both departments were gracious enough to meet with us. After a while, we were finally able to set it up. We met with the police on January 16th. We met with the firefighters the week after on the 23rd. I'm not going to tell you what it was we discussed, other than to say it was a good, informative, it was...
So,
No.
it's okay for people to meet, a small group of council to meet, but all of council can't hear the same thing in executive session.
Phil, you can meet with them anytime you want. We did not negotiate, and it was made clear we were not there to negotiate. We wanted to follow up.
You don't have the right to give us the
Excuse me.
permission to meet with them.
We met with them because if we didn't meet with them, then it would be nobody listens to us. Well, we did meet. We met for several hours. It was a productive conversation in both cases. We didn't negotiate contracts, and it was made clear right up front. That had no role in what we were doing. We heard the concerns of both the police and fire with respect to which direction we should go with chiefs versus public safety director. We talked about a variety of other issues. That was my outreach. I'll give Councilman Palella credit for setting it up, to help get some more information. I was told I would get some more additional information from the firemen at that meeting. I haven't gotten that yet. So, you want to say nothing gets done, there's no progress? I'm not at all concerned about the state of our city moving forward, the safety of our city, or the strength of our departments with Dan Howard sitting there as an interim or as a permanent or in any other capacity. However, it makes no sense at all for us to try and make a final decision on the public safety director at a time when there is a petition which could imminently put before the public that very question. I'm not going to make a decision that may be counter to what the public wants. And I have nothing at all against initiative and referendum. Nothing I said should be construed that way or could be construed that way. I understand and respect people's right to petition. At the same time, the people who aren't familiar with these things need to understand when something like this gets on or gets before council and then maybe gets onto the ballot, it can happen through the actions of a minority and a small minority of the people who are registered to vote in the town. When the people speak on it as a group, if that's the way it goes down, that's a different thing. Just the fact that there's a petition filed does not persuade me that the mood of the town is one way or the other way.
Once again, Rick, you just mentioned before that this could cost up to $20,000, and I think you said it in a very negative way. And, you know, quite frankly, we can avoid all of that. People elected us to make decisions. They didn't elect us to stick our finger in the air and wait and see and do interims and all this other, you know, stuff that's going on. They elected us to make decisions. So there's a motion and a second. to do away with the position of Public Safety Director and to appoint chiefs in those respective departments.
Call the roll.
Could we have roll call, please?
Simpson.
Yes.
McVeigh.
No.
Picardi.
No.
DeLucre.
No.
Palillo.
No.
Kern.
No.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion defeated.
just outnumbered them.
Excuse me.
Public safety.
Miss-
Mayor,
We keep things,
Mayor, I've just a procedural question, if I may.
yes.
And through the clerk, that the petition has been certified, is that correct? Okay. Procedurally, from the time of the certification, council has 20 days to act upon the proposed ordinance. I take from this recent discussion that council still has 20 days from the certification to act upon the ordinance. The ordinance itself was not introduced as an ordinance tonight, so I do not believe that this particular vote is official action on the contents of the petition. The petition survives what just took place, and council, if it chooses to act upon the ordinance that is in the petition within the next 19 days, I guess what we have remaining, they may do so. If council fails to act by the 20th day, then there are other remedies, which procedurally there's then a 10-day period of time when the proponents of the petition can modify or withdraw. If they do not, you then start a clock where within the following 30 to 60 days, there would be the election. And I'm saying this because I want to be clear that tonight's activity was not on the ordinance as presented in the petition. The petition survives what just took place.
Thank you, Fred.
excuse me, Mayor, I'd like to address something. I didn't realize that the manager council portion was over. I wanted to comment on something that was stated by yourself and Councilman Simpson at the last meeting. And basically, you stated that you had a concern about a part-time CFO. Well, Mayor, I did a little research, and you have served on council for the past 23 years. In 1991, when we formed the existing form of government, when we went from the commission form of government to the existing form of government, we had a city manager by the name of Tom Ciccarone. From 1991 through 2000, the city employed a part-time CFO, George McDermott. From 91 to 96, he received an annual salary of $20,000, and it was reduced in 1997 to $12,000. Mayor, I never heard you once be concerned about a part-time CFO up until the last meeting. In 2000, George McDermott became the city manager and was also the CFO, a position I'm sure he did on a part-time basis, since I'm sure he didn't devote 40 hours to each job. I've also spoken to our city auditor, who has absolutely no doubt that this part-time CFO that we've hired is extremely capable to do her job. I want to let the public know that we are saving a considerable amount of money. Our previous full-time CFO with salary and benefits cost us at least $100,000. We are now paying $15,000. The point I'm making is, Madam, you got up and you said you want this island to be the way it used to be, and I think everybody on this council shares your view. What we are trying to do, what we are trying to achieve is to let everybody that works in the city of Brigantine that there is a new normal, not only in the city of Brigantine, but throughout the country. We can no longer sustain the type of expenses that heretofore were commonplace. And so the steps that we're making by hiring part-time people when someone retires, none of us here are for laying anyone off. We ran on a platform that if elected, we would, through attrition and by making structural change, try to reduce our budget. Our city auditor for 20 years was Leon Costello. Can't remember the name of the firm, but Leon was our auditor. And for the past 2 years, Mike Cicero from Bowman and Company has been our auditor. Each auditor have told us year and year again, when we got to the budget process, and the public comes up and complains about the 63 or 65% of the budget, which is salary, wages, and benefits, that the only way you're going to put this budget into some sort of fiscal sanity is on how many people you hire and what you pay them. So, I didn't want to get into all that. And, well, since I'm there, I would ask the fire department, and it is true, we initiated a reach out to the police and fire department to speak in philosophical terms because I felt, as a 35-year resident of Brigantine whose kids were born and raised here, that this community shouldn't be divided the way it is. And so we sat down with them to let them know what our philosophy was, what their philosophy is, and could we all get on the same wagon and pull in the same direction. So, I have zero issue about putting a referendum on a general election when the largest amount of people will vote, the people that we represent, the people that elected us. I have zero reservations about putting a referendum on whether or not the public agrees with a public safety director or chiefs. So, but I would reach out to the fire department. I would ask them to consider the, working with, embracing the part-time certified firefighter / EMTs, show this body, show the residents in Brigantine that you are willing to embrace those people. They are not displacing anyone's job. Show everybody that you are fiscally responsible as well. And go with the flow. Allow us to try to implement the cost savings that we're trying to do. So that's my suggestion to the fire department. I hope you gentlemen think about it and work with us because I do want to make a motion to direct the city manager to start interviewing the applicants that have made application for those positions. Thank you.
Good. If I could, it's very difficult to compare a budget in 1991 to a budget in 2014. And the people who are serving in those positions now and then, it is based on the certifications that those people hold and the work that they can do. The comment I made is, in 2014, we'll be collecting over $55 million because remember the city collects for the county and school district and everyone else in terms of bringing revenue in. I think, and I haven't talked to Mr. Cicero about this, but I think when you're bringing that kind of money in, you need a CFO full-time who is going to make sure that that money is being accounted for properly and that there are efficiencies that can be had. And I think today's a classic example. Up until the last iteration of this agenda, no one knew where the funding was coming from to pay for the engineering. There was an unbelievable scramble going on here for the last couple of days to find funding. The CFO was able to do it. I mean, it is a part-time person, but are we being as efficient as possible? And I got to tell you right now, operationally, you got to look at, and I agree, you should look at every position to see if it is continued to be warranted. But you have openings right now. You have one in the building department. We have people who are already waiting for permits. We have a planning board secretary that retired. I'm not sure what the plan is going forward to replace that person. We have a lot of construction going on the island as a result of Sandy. So operationally, you have to look at how those positions work. I mean, we can all say just cut, cut, cut until the complaint about the service is there. And quite frankly, if you're talking philosophically about embracing part-time firefighters, sounds to me like you were negotiating. when you had that meeting. So I think, you know, once again, people of Brigantine deserve an open and transparent discussion about what the impact of part-time firefighters is on the operation of the fire department.
Just a footnote, Mayor, on the $55 million that comes through our doors, that is collected by our tax assessor,
Right.
or our tax collector. And then, of course, the CFO oversees and makes sure and certifies that everything is accounted for. But that money's coming through the tax collector's office.
And if I'm accounting for $55 million, I think I want to be here more than 2 days a week.
If it doesn't rain. Yeah, $55 million. I sat with a CFO today that I'm thinking about hiring his firm for my company, and I'm nowhere near $55 million. He's a Fortune 500 company, and CFO, he worked for a Fortune 500 company. I told him what our CFO made and how far she has to drive. She has to drive 100 miles each way for $15,000. That's 400 miles a week. You know, I'm all in favor of cutting the bottom line, tighten up everything. I'm in favor of all that. You know, there's certain things you don't cut in business. And I think one of your most important person in government today would be your CFO, because you want to know where the monies are going.
Everybody's in favor of cutting things, except when we do, then you're not in favor of it. That's the problem. There are municipalities much larger than us with much more cash flow that have part-time CFOs.
Where?
It's the rule more than the
I asked that question. I asked the question, where's the part-time CFO?
There are several municipalities around here who share CFOs. I believe Galloway is one of them.
There are 6 jobs posted right now on the League of Municipalities for part-time CFO.
Because remember now, too,
But didn't we just
the
hire somebody?
systems are much
Didn't
more...
we just hire somebody to help the CFO? Didn't we just hire somebody for that?
What we
Assistant?
What we did is when,
Oh, well.
no, it's not an interim. What we decided to do, instead of replacing a full-time CFO and a full-time QPA, which were 2 full-time salaries, one was around $80,000, one was $40,000, plus another $28,000 each in health benefits, and then pension expenses, we decided to go with a part-time CFO and a part-time account clerk. Now, the part-time account clerk is important because we are now paying an assistant to the CFO approximately $65,000 a year, plus health benefits, plus pension expense, and she's doing a lot of clerical work. She's doing a lot of filing. She's doing a lot of data entry. So we're able to hire a part-time account clerk, I believe at $14 an hour, to do that medial type of work, get the assistant to the CFO into more CFO type of work, which would be more in her salary range than what she's doing right now.
And she still remains at $15,000?
Yes, the CFO's at $15,000. The new account clerk's at its part-time hours at $14 an hour, and that was to replace 2 people that were both full-time. One was around $80,000 plus the health, $28,000 health benefits, plus the pension expense, and the full-time QPA, which was $45,000 a year, plus the health benefits and pension at $28,000 in the pension cost. So it is more economical, and it makes more sense to take the $65,000 person off doing clerical type of work, which they're getting paid too much to do.
I just, there's some things you got to cut and some things you shouldn't cut. I mean, the CFO, I believe we need a full-time CFO.
When a part-time CFO
don't
is
forget now,
functioning perfectly, why go to
we just got a thing in our mailbox stating about chiefs, how it saves $175,000, and I think Jack Glazer or somebody, a CPA, came up with it actually costs us $6,400 to keep public safety director. It actually costs the taxpayer $6,400. I came up with $8,400. I figured throw in his phone bill and stuff like that.
That's not possible.
No.
How can you say that when 3 chiefs,
Well,
salaries and benefits and pension...
You got that paper, right?
But
The difference between the two.
You still
Well,
have,
no,
you
that
still
is-
have a
that's
captain, you
two
still
and
have a
two don't
captain, you
equal
still have
four.
pensions, you still have.
That's not the
Right.
case. It's absolutely impossible. Anybody can figure that out. 3 chiefs, pension, health, instead of one person who right now is without benefits and max it out at
Right
70,000.
now, right now. So the next person that comes along, if Dan doesn't
It's
stay
still,
along.
one person is not going to
He's
make what 3
required-
people made before. Come on.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, we could, I think the analysis, the difference is the salary between a captain and a chief. It's not that those people are going away completely.
Right.
But,
No.
but, excuse, Frank, we're not in the public portion right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jennifer,
You can bring it up next time.
Jennifer, may I
Okay.
ask you, bottom line question? You
Sure.
work here in City Hall every day. You're responsible for all of the departments. Are you satisfied that our part-time CFO is able to handle the job and is handling the job well?
I have to be honest, I'm very supportive of the part-time CFO. Some of it is because she is a retired CFO and comes with a wealth of experience. When we had a full-time CFO, there were some issues with internal controls and so forth that are now being actually corrected by the part-time CFO. But a lot of that is because of her experience behind her. She's doing a great job. You know, right now she's in budget crunch period, but she's keeping up with everything. So I don't know if we were bringing in somebody that didn't have the experience she had. I would say a part-time CFO would be a little bit more difficult, but we have somebody that's very experienced that's able to handle this.
And
And we are a small municipality,
Yeah.
you know, compared to other municipalities that, you know, do have part-time CFOs.
And would you do me one favor? Would you, at some point before our next meeting, reach out to our auditor, Mike Cicero, and ask Mike if he has any concerns at all with the arrangement of having the part-time CFO that we have? And if he does, please bring those back to us. And if he doesn't, I'd like to know that too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I
Any other
I
comments
have a comment.
before we go into executive?
At the last council meeting, somebody brought up the issue of pensions, and comments by the mayor made it sound like the state pays the pensions, and we pay very little. At least that was the gist that I got. And I want to correct that, and I'm sure that the mayor will agree with me. The city of Brigantine paid $1.7 million last year to the police and firemen retirement system. They paid another $500,000 to the public employee retirement system. Yes, the state administers these retirement funds, but the funding for the pensions really comes from 4 sources. It comes from your city government, it comes from the employee, it comes from income generated by the stocks and bonds and what the pension fund does with their money, investments, and it comes in some part from the state. And these percentages vary year to year. But to make it sound like Brigantine doesn't have anything to do with it or have any expenses is totally incorrect. The other thing I'd like to just throw out there, we have 10 living ex-chiefs. We have 10 living ex-police and fire chiefs. Last year, 9 of them received pensions in the amount of $656,000. 9 people shared $656,000. You can do the math. The idea of rising to chief, being in that position for a minimal period of time, and then moving aside for somebody else to become chief and garner an increased pension is just simply unsustainable. It is economically unsustainable.
Frank. Frank, I'm not sure the remarks you're referring to, but, excuse me, sir. But, I'm not sure the remarks you're referring to, but I think I was trying to correct a misconception that the employees don't contribute. They do contribute to their pension. In fact, police and fire contribute more than PERS.
Police and fire now contribute 10%, and
But I think
the
the
others,
perception
the
was
other,
that they didn't.
the others contribute 7.5%.
And I believe my remarks were directed in that area, of clearing up a misconception. But I appreciate your remarks, that
thought
once a person is on pension, they are paid through the pension system. So we're paying for the active members right now who are contributing at this time. Excuse me, Mr. Marchese, we're not in public session at this point. Well, Mr. Marcosi, I've tried to, no. I try and correct everyone, Mr. Marcosi. We've had two, excuse me, we've had two public sessions. At this time, need a motion to retire to
I
executive
have one
session.
question, since you were just talking about chiefs, Dr. Kern. I have a question for you, Mayor Gunther. In the newspaper, I read your recent letter to the editor, and I'm going to quote you. It says, quote, "An overwhelming majority of residents, taxpayers, and public safety professionals have expressed their opinions that chiefs are needed to ensure the effective and efficient operation of these departments, as well as to maintain the quality of service that we all have come to expect in Brigantine," unquote. An overwhelming majority? I don't recall a survey or a public vote, but you have decided that most of Brigantine wants chiefs. Can you back this up?
Yes. Well, and excuse me if I could, what I'm talking about is people who have come to these meetings. We've heard a number of people here testify that they are in favor of chiefs. I've heard every member of this city council, which I also put in this letter, that you said that you are in favor of chiefs. Do I have data that says exactly how many people? No, I didn't at the time I wrote that, but you do have a petition now. And Lynn, how many signatures are on a petition?
They required 465. They had 525 legitimate.
So, I mean, technically, overwhelming majority would be everybody in Brigantine, you know, would be divided by, I guess, 50% or, you know, whatever. I don't have that number, and I'm talking about the people I've talked to. I got to tell you that when I go through the community and I go to different places, that's what I'm hearing anecdotally, that people want their chiefs back, and they want us to move forward and to have a public safety. Excuse me, Mr. Marcosi.
Sir, I apologize.
So that's the majority I'm talking about.
Thank you.
But didn't everyone here at some point say they support chiefs?
Yeah.
Including
We
you,
did.
Lisa?
I said I'm not for or against chiefs. I haven't
So
made
you're
up
not
my
for or
mind.
against them now?
But I was just questioning the overwhelming majority
Right.
of residents. I mean,
Well, probably,
Sound like we're gonna find out.
we will find out, I guess.
yeah. Maybe I should have qualified by that by saying the overwhelming majority of people who I have seen at these meetings and also have talked to me personally.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to retire to executive
Yeah,
session.
we have a motion to retire.
I'll
You have a
second that, Tony.
Yes.
Okay, and the topics,
On a lighter note, just to set the record straight, Mr. Burlington is not my friend, he's my husband.
Okay.
Who made the motion?
okay.
Who moved it?
We need a motion and second to retire. Do we have that, Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Who moved it? Who made the motion?
Tony made the motion, I think Andy seconded it. And the topics will be committee appointments, surf school agreement, and parking lot leases. And do you anticipate we'll be taking action when we return?
No.
No action when we return.
We- Fred,
Okay, I have a motion.
Go ahead.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act permits the
Even the
exclusion
woman who
of the
wants it
public
read is
from a
listening.
meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. And whereas the governing body wishes to discuss committee appointments, this is so rude, I'm sorry. Sir, this is so rude. All right, that's all right. Minutes will be kept.
Folks, we need to take a vote real fast on moving to executive session.
Minutes will be kept, and once this matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires that confidentiality, then the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved that the public be excluded from this meeting. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Thank you, everybody.
All in favor? Aye.